Hi, welcome back. Today we're going to talk a little bit about how to do a wallpaper. I have another video regarding wallpapers, and it kind of walks you through a little bit, but it really doesn't it doesn't really show you what's involved to any real degree. So I thought I might try it again and see if maybe perhaps you might, after seeing this, attempt to do your own wallpaper and you know, really involve yourself in a way that won't be, you know, frightening or intimidating in any way. So I'm going to attempt to show you how to put one together, and believe me, what I'm doing you don't have to do. I'll be showing you ways that you can, you know, really personalize your own desktop wallpaper so that you can put it on your computer and it really says something about you. Okay, so I'm going to bring up I something that I have already done, and as you can see, I have the guitar, and then I have the background. Let's talk about the background first of all. I've taken a couple of steps here already. Let me change this to layers so you can see what the layers are doing or what's involved in this. You can see that there's two parts to this. There's actually one on the left and one on the right, which is the top layer, and basically they're facing each other, or you know, they're touching each other, and it's basically the same image, except one it's horizontally flipped and then it's vertically flipped, so that, you know, it kind of sort of matches up in the middle. So I'm going to do some things, and I'm going to touch up the middle so that it could, you know, really fit a little bit better, and it's less noticeable. And you say, oh, that's a flip. That's, you know, all he did was match up the middle part. Okay, and here's what I'm going to do first. I'm going to take layer 1, press shift key, then layer 2. Now by pressing the shift key, I'm going to actually lock them together or put them together, and then I'm going to go to the menu situation here and say merge layer. That means that they're going to become one layer now and no longer two. Now that I have it lined up, I'm not afraid, and you know, I'm going to lock them together now. Okay, so now they've become a layer, and I'm going to go over here to the menu, and I'm going to select the smudge tool, and that's the one with the finger. And basically the smudge tool allows you to smear things, and that's what I want to do here. I want to smear it so that, you know, you'll say, oh, that's the way it was. Hey, that's the way it was. Yeah, that's the way it was. And it becomes a little bit more believable when you see it this way than with that line in the middle. So there. I showed somebody this image. They really liked it. They made one comment about it, and they said, I really don't think those stars fit. So I said, okay, great. I'll go along with you, and I'll take them out. So now I'm going to go to the paintbrush. You can see here on the menu, it's the paintbrush and not the pencil or the color replacement or the mixer brush tool, but the brush tool. And you notice that the brush tool is really tiny. You can see it right there, little tiny brush tool. So I'm going to go and up here and enlarge it a bit more, maybe there, no, a little bit smaller. So all I want to do is touch up those stars and make them disappear. So what I'm going to do is press my option key down now. I have the brush tool selected over here on the right. Okay, and I brought the size of the brush down so I can work with it. Then I'm going to press my option key on my keyboard, and I'm going to select a color that's kind of near this area, and then I'm going to use that color to fade out the stars in that area so that they disappear. Now the reason I chose that close color, because if you can see, there's a kind of like a reddish or brownish color going on there, and by choosing that color, you're actually approximating what may be going on in that area, and so it basically disappears. So I'm going to go back here now, and I'm going to select an area here near to the star, which is also kind of a brownish color, but it isn't exactly the one that I chose earlier. And I'm going to fade out these stars here, and that looks pretty good. Okay, and because this color is basically the same as this, I'm going to just keep it and fade out these stars up here. Now, why should I go back over here and pick out this color instead of going over here and picking a color like I did at the beginning? Well, it's easier to do it this way than it is to pick the color over here, because the color will change when you print or spray over the background. It just makes it different, and it'll be a different color than what you'll pick if you pick it up from the original site or area. So I'm going to do the same as I did at the beginning, and then I'm going to spray over these stars, and as you can see, they're disappearing. And if you didn't know stars were there before, you'd say they're gone, and they were never there. Okay, next is I got to unify this whole thing. And if you notice, the background is white and there's no unification, so I'm going to go to the select tool up here and pick eyedropper, and that's going to allow me to pick a color background, and that's that one, and it puts it on the first layer or the foreground color, and that means that it's active. It's going to be the one that's going to be used for painting or drawing with or spraying with, whatever you're going to do. In this case, I'm going to use the bucket tool, paint bucket tool, and it allows me to just pour it all over the background. So I have to select the background and go ahead and pour it or click it, and it becomes one unit. Now, do I want to the next step would be, okay, now that I did that, I could now select the background and the foreground by pressing my shift key and then merging those together, or I can just go and without even selecting them, okay, I won't even select them, or I can go to flatten image, and that basically flatten everything down. In other words, you would do basically the same thing as if you had selected each one by shift key and then going to merge layer, except for one exception. The exception is that if you did it by flattening, the flattened image will become a background image that is locked. Okay, if you do it the other way, it becomes a layer that you can move around. Actually, take your move tool and move it, just like this right here. I can move it. See, you can actually see the outline around it where I moved it. Now, because I moved it from the original spot, and I don't want to do that, I can go back here and say undo move, and it will go back. Okay, now what's the next step? The next step is to add the guitar, and now I wanted to make this wallpaper kind of relative to me, because I'm into music. I love to play guitar, and so this would be inspirational for me. But actually, you can do the basically the same things using your own backgrounds. You can actually take a photograph of something that you really are still life, your husband, your wife, your children, or maybe a family portrait, or whatever it might be, and make that your background. Just make sure that you fit it into this image ratio, and I'll show you what that is right now. Going back here, the image ratio is 35 by 22. Now get these numbers down: 35, 556, 22.225. Now that's inches, and pixels, that would be 2560 by 1600. Now those two numbers are relative, okay? This is what the number would be if it were pixels, and this was the number it would be if it was inches. So they're relative to each other. This is the pixel relative, this is the inch relative, so it's all the same, okay? The resolution is 72. You'll get by with 72 because you're actually doing a very large image. That's 35 inches. That's a large image. And the reason, here's how it works. Resolution, when it's high, is always best. It's always better to work with high resolution, and I'd say 300, between 300 and 600. Okay, it's always best to work in that area. And if you have to reduce the image resolution down to fit it, to go on the web or anything like that, or even the size down with the resolution going down, you're actually going to keep the integrity of the image colors and clarity and things like that easier. You cannot enlarge in a reduced resolution or sized image to a larger image. You cannot do it. You cannot make it bigger and keep all the resolution and stuff like that. Here's what happens. You have 2,500 pixels going across this image, and then you have 1,600 going down. Now if you reduce it down any further than that, you're going to reduce the number of pixels, so that the number of pixels, if you had half of that, you'll have half the clarity, half the sharpness, half the colors. So keep that in mind. The reason why we're working at 72 and not maybe at 300, like I said earlier, is because we're working with an image that's going to appear on your desktop, which is a web or already in its environment medium, right? So you're not going to have to worry about enlarging it later on or reducing it later on. You might if you're doing it for a billboard or something, and then you want to be able to make it relative or relate to people also who want to download the ad onto their computers. So you make it so that it's 600 DPI or 600 resolution, and then when you reduce it down to 72, it's placeable into your computer. So you keep both files open. Okay, so that going back there is important because you need to know what files are all about and how they relate to good files and bad files and things like that. People get into trouble, and I always did when I first started, so I think it's a good point to bring up. Okay, let's go back here. I'm going to go to this guitar because this guitar is going into this wallpaper, and I'm going to press. I've already started this because I knew it was going to be time consuming, but I thought it would be very important for you to get involved in this because it's one tool and one area that's going to be used a lot, whether you're using Photoshop or Illustrator, and that's using the pen tool. Okay, and what the pen tool allows you to do is actually go around objects and select them, just isolate them from the background or areas, and you get to isolate that piece or that area and then later on I'll show you how it isolates, and then how you can bring it out of the picture. I did something on it in a video tutorial earlier, but I'll touch on it again. Okay, going back to this, if you can see, I've already started. There's a line that's tracing around this guitar, but I'm going to show you how it works. Okay, I'm going to start this line again, and I'm going to click my Option key. Now look what happens when I get near it. Okay, it becomes an O. Here it becomes an X. That means it's, it's Option, and it becomes. Now I'm going to click it with my Option key again, and notice what happened. That a line went away. Well, that means that now it doesn't have a pre-designed, let's say, loop that will make sense with this loop. So I'm going to go ahead and go where I want to go with it. I'm going to go here, and then I'm going to stretch. This all takes practice, folks. I mean, this doesn't come overnight for me either. So, I think it would be a great idea for you to practice this until you get perfect. Okay, now I'm going to go back here. I don't have to retouch that point. I can actually go here, but see what happens if I just did that. It takes a kind of like a prescribed turn for you, and I don't like that. So I'm going to delete that. All I'm going to do is hit the delete button. Go back over to that point, and I'm going to hit the Option key first, and then I'm going to press down on my mouse, and it did the same thing as it did up here. It lost one of those lines, and that's that prescribed turn. So now I'm going to go over here, and you can see it's making a direct point A to B line. Now I'm going to stretch it, and then I can take all kinds of little loops and turns and stuff like that, but when you're going wrong, and it takes some getting used to. So I would practice this particular skill with the pen tool, because like I said, it's the one tool that you'll be using so much with Photoshop and Illustrator. Photoshop has done a tremendous job with the CS5 version, and what they did was it made it so much easier to select, pull out items, and we'll get into that later without using the they did it so that you wouldn't have to take your time to do it with a pen tool. But here again, I'm doing the old-fashioned way, because I think this is a skill that most people I should say, should have, because it's a skill that you'll never lose or be sorry you didn't have. In fact, you'll be glad you had it. Okay, I'm going to take this and try to see if I can pull this together here. Yeah, that's pretty close. Okay, let that go. Now I'm going to go back to the Option, press there again, because I don't want that prescribed loop that it usually gives you. Okay, then I pull that together there. Now I'm pressing my shift key, not shift key, my space key, and it gives me the hand so I can move the picture. Now I'm going to go back, press the Option key, press there, because I don't want that prescribed again. It gave me that straight line. See how I kind of took that little turn there that it needed. Go down. That one I didn't have to worry about it having a prescribed line, because once you work with the pen tool, you start getting used to knowing what it's going to do. Believe me. But I can't stress it enough that if there's any skill that you could develop with Photoshop and Illustrator, it's using this pen tool. It's a beautiful tool. It's a great skill, and you'll never be sorry that you spend so many aggravating moments trying to learn it. Now, that shouldn't scare you, because it's not that aggravating. It's actually a lot of fun. Okay, pressing the option key, I didn't want that prescribed turn, so there I go. Press it again. Okay, I'm going to press so I can move it. And that was the space key. Now I'm going to go back and press the option key and get that. Has a little bit of a bump there, so I'll take that. A little bit of a bump there, take that. As I said, this would have taken a lot longer. If this is boring you, I'm sorry, but I think it's so important that people learn how to do this, or at least see it being done, so that they can, at least know what to do when they get to it. Okay, here, option key again. I started this earlier so that I wouldn't have to take you through the whole guitar. And some of you might say, "Oh, I wish you had." Some people might say, "I wish you hadn't," but you never can make everybody happy. So. Okay, we're just about finished here. Now, some people will ask, how do you know where to stop? If you notice, these are pixels, and pixels will kind of, like here, you can see a line, a strong line, then it starts to fade a little bit, and then fade a little bit more, and then becomes another color. Well, that to me is telling me that there's what is it called? The edges don't have straight cutoff from black to white. They actually have a fade in or pixelation. Especially in photographs and on computer photographs. Photographs that are taken into the computer become pixelated. You can, in a good way. They get actually pixels so that that you can separate or work with or do whatever you want with. So anyway, what do? You working with this, you try to catch a happy medium, and usually you do if you hit like right in between, and not make it too. We just finished here. If we don't make it too strong of a line, okay. If you notice here, you can see that this is probably a little higher than it needed to be, but once it gets taken out of the background element, it won't be that noticeable. So you can there's some flexibility, but you have like within 2 or 3 pixels you're up from the line or down from the line. And what I mean by line is like this darkness or this color from that color. If you're within, there's one pixel difference between this line and that line. So, and then there's 1 pixel difference here between that color and then this color. So hitting in between is always a good sweet spot. Okay, on the paths, if you look at layers, you have, if you don't have it already on your layers palette, I would suggest you get it from your Windows up here, Windows menu, and if you look at paths, you can select paths here and it'll show up somewhere on your menu up here, but it won't necessarily be here on with all the other layers. I put them together. For example, if I took this and pulled it out, that's how you would get it if I just pulled it off the window and made it appear. But I wanted it to be within this this unit, so you know I stuck it in there, and all you do is just grab it, put it in there. Okay, anyway, that doesn't look like I did a good thing there, did it? No. Okay, so now what I'll do is I'll put it in right there. Okay. Okay, so anyway, I go to paths, it's selected, you can see it's blue, selected. Now what I'm doing is I'm selecting the line that I just did, the the path, using the pen tool that we have over here, and then I'm going to go over here to the menu, right side menu, and select it and say make selection. Okay, and what that does, and I would say, okay, that doesn't give you any options. Is that new selection? Yeah, it's new. Okay, so go ahead and press it, say yes. Feather radius, you can go between 1 and 2, or 0 and 2, and you're pretty safe. I leave it at 0 because if you're anti-aliasing, basically you're giving that soft edge to everything. So if you have that press, you're pretty safe. So leave anti-aliasing on pretty much of the time. If you don't want a real hard edge, then you'll be safe. Okay, press OK, and then I'm gonna go back and go to my and reduce this down a bit so you can see it. And you can see that it's actually selected. Okay, but okay, now here's the thing: is it selecting the guitar, or is it selecting background? Well, here's the difference. Okay, I see it's selecting the background. The reason I know that is because with my experience, if this is selected, it's the only thing that's these ants are going around. Okay, it looks like a bunch of ants trailing each other. Okay, so it's the only thing that's going around. If I were to take it and inverse it, meaning that I don't want the guitar selected, I want the background selected, I could go up to select on the menu item upstairs and select inverse, and now you see that not only is this showing up as being selected, this line on the edge is being selected. So that's telling me the background is being selected. Okay, so I'm going to go back, inverse again, or I could have said step backwards, or undo, inverse, either one of these two. So I had three options. I could have done it here, or I could have done it here. Okay, now I'm going to press Command. Now this is using Mac, Command C, or copy, right? And then I'm going to go back to my general background of this wallpaper, and then I'm going to press Command V for paste, and see what happened. The guitar's in there. Okay, the guitar is too small, so now I'm going to go to Transform Scale, and then you'll see a box go around it where I can now press Shift key, because I want to keep it. If I don't press the Shift key down and start to scale it, it's going to scale it in some awkward way. It just kind of moves. However you pull it, it's going to pull it that way. By keeping the Shift key down, it keeps it locked proportionally. Okay, so that's what happened. I think I'll go a little bit larger. And maybe a little bit larger. And then press that there. Okay. What I did was I pressed the middle. I said, okay, I'm accepting this. Okay, now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to double click on the layer. By the way, if you click on it, you can actually name it. I can say guitar. Okay, background. Now there's two backgrounds. Okay, background 2. Okay. By double clicking on it, I get the style menu or the style layer, which actually is your effects. Okay, and I want to do a drop shadow. So I want to make it look like it's, you know, in 3-dimension, and it's not part of, you know, it's not, you know what I mean, it's actually coming out at you. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to hit drop shadow. Then if I click the whole area, it allows you to do some work within that parameter. So here's what I want to do. I want to angle it so that it is in such a way that it'll form a drop shadow against the background. Okay, and then I'm going to put distance. See, now it's showing up. You see it? Now if I had turned it this way, the drop shadow would be at the bottom, and you wouldn't see the difference because of the background being dark. Okay, so anyway, I'm going to go back here, do that again, and then I'm going to spread it a little bit, just a little bit, and then I'm going to size it a little bit. That means it gives it a little bit more of a I don't know, like a blur. Yeah, that's what it does. Okay, so now I could also darken it just a taste more to give it some barrier between the background. So that kind of helped a lot. Okay, I think it helped a lot. Okay, the last thing I'm going to do, and the last thing you could do, is add some titling. Okay, it's very easy. You have a T over here on your tools menu, and you pick horizontal type tool. That means that you're going to go from left to right and do some typing. The other ones we'll talk about at a later time, but they're all related to the type tool, and they're very, very good type tools. Anyway, the first one is the most used and the most easy to understand. So we'll go here, and then we're going to click anywhere. And when I click anywhere on the image area, you'll notice that a type little button shows up. Then on the menu to your right, your layers will have a new type layer. Okay, so now it's telling me you're ready to type. The problem is that if you type right now, if you look up here and you look over here at the left, down here at your tools menu, you'll have a very dark color. So it's actually saying, look, you're going to be typing in the same color that you had for the background. So is it going to show up? No, it's not. So what you do is you press here, and then you could actually go outside and pick any color you want. And I'm gonna pick white. Okay, and then say OK. Now I can type, and it should be in white. Okay, so let's say I love jazz. Okay, what happened here? Well, if you look over here on the top, first of all, it's in a Japanese font that I had been working with earlier, and it's at a 1.38, and that's a very small font. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to press Command A, that selected it all, and then I'm going to change the size here to about let's say 12. Well, I'm going to move it up actually more than that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to select it here with my up and down arrows on my keyboard. I'm going to press up, and it'll just move it up for you. So you see, from 1.8, we actually went to 257 points. That's a lot. Okay, do we want to keep that font? It's not a bad font, but I'm gonna show you a little trick that you might like before we sign off. Okay, I'm going to go back here. I'm going to highlight it all. That means I selected the the whole font, and then I'm going to go here and start at the top, say OK, and then it changes, right? Then I'm going to select it again, and then using my up and down arrow, I'm going to go down my list. If you look at that, that's my list right there. Okay, and it's actually going to go down my list because it's selected here automatically, and you'll see the changes appear as we're doing it. Okay, there's air condition, there's Alien League, there's I Love Jazz in Amazon, and then American Typewriter, and so on. So what do I stay with? Actually, I can stay with anything that I want to, and it'll be just as good for me because that's what I liked. Okay, and that's the way it should be for you. Now, if you wanted to add more to it, you can add more to it. You can add your name, your company, whatever you want. Remember, the background could be a photograph, it could be anything you want. So don't be afraid. Use some of the skills that I showed you, and I hope you have a lot of fun with this, because actually it's a something that you did for yourself, and it's also something that allowed you to develop some skills. So have fun, and we'll see you next time.